He had 45 minutes, and at the end of the day, his 45 minutes he was taking off fine and good. But I feel like if you are going to play a player to his strengths. Don't play a player with a handicap.
It was the same pattern they were playing, and they brought in Pedro. And we could count how many times Pedro shaked off his man. It was the same game. It was the same pattern. It was the same pattern of game. We saw a non-Magueke shake off Robert.
What was this?
Now let's get it started.
Play ball!
After an unproductive performance from Sancho, Maresca decided to take him out just after the first half. Now the question Chelsea fans are asking is, are we getting the Man U Sancho or a new Sancho? Okay guys, if you look at the performance of Sancho in the past games, sometimes he performs on and off, just like when he was at Manchester United. You see his potential is there. Then his next game, he's like a totally lost boy, like a boy that you brought in from a village and brought in to play professional football. He doesn't pass well, he doesn't track back well. So what is the problem of what is causing Sancho for him to be this inconsistent in Chelsea, and even when he was in Manchester United? But let's focus on Chelsea, because he's done playing with Chelsea.
You know, when we talk about Sancho, there are different school of thoughts. There's a school of thought that Jadon Sancho is a sport kid who doesn't have work ethic, who doesn't have that much talent, you know, in the first place. And that's one school of thought. Another school of thought is that Sancho is a good talent, phenomenal talent. We saw him at Borussia Dortmund. We saw him go back there again. But the question is, he's a phenomenal talent, but maybe he doesn't turn up on big games when you need him to turn up. Okay, so these are the two school of thought. And if you look on either side of the spectrums, you are going to see a grain of truth here and there. But for me, I felt that Trent was just too good yesterday, man. And that's what
Trent
it is.
Being too good.
Trent was just too good yesterday.
He not get I want take too good. You no go get one successful dribble. One successful dribble against Trent.
Trent was just too good yesterday. 1, 2. We talk about we did our podcast yesterday as well. We talked about Salah and how they give him balls 1v1 and all of that. Service to Trent is always when he has two people on him. He's never had a clean one-on-one chance.
1v1,
he hasn't had a clean 1v1 opportunity. Service to him
1v1
on that wing.
So
1v1, he didn't get a successful dribble against Trent.
The problem is from Sancho, not necessarily that Trent was good.
Not the problem is Sancho himself, the identity, the entity, the everything Sancho. Get problem. You know, we sang him praises about when he went to Dortmund after leaving Man United. That Man United was just too big for him. Perhaps the ego problem in Man United, the problem at Man United was too big for him, or perhaps he couldn't handle the pressure at Man United, or anything they said about Man United. So let's not go into what he did at Man United. But let's go to what he did at Dortmund. They started singing him praises. He had successful dribbles, he had goals rating, he had goals and assists. But at the end of the season, after playing 38 games for Dortmund, after all the hype that he is back on full form, I know how many goals he scored for Dortmund. Score reach 10 goals.
Yes.
Do reach 15 assists. But yet every week in, week out, you keep hearing Sancho is scoring goals, Sancho is doing this. Well, at the end of the season, okay, Sancho that has...
How many games did he start for Dortmund?
Sancho that has regained his form back, Sancho that is back on top form.
How many games did he start for Dortmund?
Because he was starting the Champions League for Dortmund. Let's not forget that fact. He was starting some of the league games for Dortmund. He was playing at least every match, even if it's 30 minutes. He was starting the Champions League games for Dortmund.
Started the Champions League finals.
He started the Champions League finals. Let's not forget that. So whether we start games or start game, they play. You give players 10 minutes. That 10 minutes is enough to show what you have. But Sancho, we were singing in praises that he has regained himself. You get, this is one thing we talk. Sancho has regained himself going back to Dortmund. He is now fleet-footed. He's not the talented Sancho everybody saw before. That was what was in the media. That was what was trending. Sancho don't gain himself back. Sancho is now back to full form. Sancho did not score more than 10 goals in what's it called? Borussia Dortmund. He did not score more than 6 goals in the Champions League. He did not create he created chances. Let's not take away that fact that he created chances. But he didn't have up to 20 assists for Dortmund all of last season.
And that's not his fault, because he's not the one converting those chances.
And now in Chelsea, he's back. His first game, he had 2 assists or 1 assist in his first game.
And everybody got
man of the match. Everybody was like, after 15 minutes he played. Sancho is back. Sancho is a god. They are singing him praises. You get now because now after that you're not giving us two school of thought. School of thought don't mean the two school of thought you bring now one. It no good, you say no good. It didn't day, It's a 1 day on, 1 day off. It's like
it's inconsistent.
Let me use Nigeria because you know Nigeria and electricity problem. I use Nigeria and electricity wahala. It's like this band C or band F people that they have 1 day on, 1 week off. So when it's on, everybody sees that it's on. But the rest of the other time is off. We notice it. You see, you can't achieve greatness when you play 1 day off, one game you're world class in this game. Then the next 4 games or the next 2 games you're off.
John,
you can't achieve greatness with that.
What do you make of Maresca removing him at halftime? Sometimes it kills the morale because part of the issue that he was having at Manchester United, it was the morale. Sometimes he does not play at Manchester United. That the head doesn't play him. Sometimes he doesn't even introduce, or probably they introduce him 2 or 3 minutes to the end of the game. Sometimes he doesn't even make match day squad. Sometimes, do you think that Maresca, the decision for Maresca to remove him after halftime, is going to actually have a problem with his confidence?
I don't think he should have a problem with his confidence because if you look at the grand scheme of things, and I like the fact that Nonso is saying the things he's saying now because very soon you are going to have to eat your words. Basically.
You know what I mean? If you do well, we'll not say you do well. If you not do anyhow, we'll tell you say you do anyhow. It's just the way it is. It's just the way of football. You do well, you say you do well. If you don't do well, we tell you, we call it your critics. It's just the way of football. It is. Okay, so you can continue.
So in the game we saw yesterday, there was no way we were going to see the phenomenal Sancho because Chelsea started the game conservatively, holding on to possession, dominating on the ball, and being able to look out for 1 or 2 chances. And Liverpool sat back. Let us come out and call it what it is. In the first half, when Chelsea were on the ball, Liverpool sat back, straight up, only with your full chest, and then we move forward. And what were you expecting the young man to do in that scenario? He got the ball, he made some dribble, tried to drive into the 18 to create a few chances. Nothing was coming off. He couldn't shake his man yesterday. And for the life of me, when you can't shake your man, you can't shake your man. Simple and short. That's the truth about it.
The same man.
But had it been, like I said, one of the things I said when we were talking about that game in the podcast is that at a certain point in time, I expected Maresca to ditch his conservative efforts and go all out to get a result. He didn't do that. I expected that game, if Chelsea were more attacking in terms of you have the ball, you're moving forward to go and create an opportunity, we could have seen Sancho create something for Jackson, or at least have a chance to get in on the goal.
He had 45 minutes.
He had 45 minutes, and at the end of the day, it's 45 minutes. He was taking a fine and good ball. I feel like if you are going to play a player to his strengths. Don't play a player with a handicap because you put him in the game, he's starting, but he's handicapped because you are playing a pattern that doesn't suit him. Same thing for Kopama yesterday.
Let's not forget that.
Same thing for Kopama yesterday. Kopama started, a lot of people are giving him a couple of knocks because he didn't get in on the goal. He didn't create assists yesterday. But then you can't put a player and put him in the match and give him a handicap by playing a pattern of football that doesn't leverage their strengths.
Okay,
simple.
Okay, no. So if you look at
was
that
the same
now,
pattern they were playing, and they brought in Pedro, and we could count how many times Pedro shaked off his man. It was the same game. It was the same pattern. It was the same pattern of game. We saw a non-Magueke shake off Robert.
What was his production at the end of the day?
It's not about. See, at some point.
At the end of the day, what is their production?
But at some point,
how many points did they take away from Anfield?
At some point, you realize that some games are not all about win and lose. They are talking points from games.
So how many of those points now? How many of them reflect on the table?
Not every time.
No, answer me. How many reflect on the table? How many of those games reflect on the table? Answer now.
All this is not about 9 points, 3 points.
How many reflects on the table?
Calm down. Let me answer the question they asked.
They're talking about Sancho.
They're talking about player performance. It's not about the total result. When we're talking about the game, and I said, I told you something about Dominic Szoboszlai. I said if he is a player that takes the first touch on goal, he scores more goals. But he's always trying to cut back, which is a problem for him. Not just for me, a problem for him and the rest of the team, because when you try to cut back, a defender is covering up and you lose that chance. We talked about it about Szoboszlai. Now, if you talk about individual player brilliance, Sancho didn't have it.
I think Neto did better.
Neto did better in the second 45 minutes. He came in, he did way better. Even when Christopher came into that, because when I think the sub was Neto for Sancho. Then at some point they took out Madueke for Christopher, and Nedro moved to the other side.
Yes.
And went to the other side and still shaped off his man in Robertson. Why Christopher?
Why didn't you do it against Trent?
He did it against Trent.
Why didn't you do it against Trent? And then secondly, if he's playing Trent, you have a player that is coming into the match full strength, full fitness, coming into the match in the second half. You have a Robertson and a Trent that have already played 45 minutes. You can never expect it to be the same result, no matter what. Robertson and Trent have played 45 minutes. This man is just coming in fresh into the match. So you can't use it as a yardstick to judge this particular one.
In the beginning, let me quote you now. He said Salah is always giving the ball 1v1. Abi? And Sancho is not always giving the ball 1v1. He's always having two men on him. In the same scenario, Pedro came in that position and shaped up the two men against him.
They are not the same player, and they were not, and he was not playing in the same wing. He was not playing in the same wing.
You cannot
and
he was not playing in the same wing.
He was not playing in the same wing. He was not playing in the same wing, and he's not playing the same player that started that match, because this guy has been playing for more than 50-something minutes before this other guy came in.
He not played 50-something minutes.
What do you mean 55-something minutes?
First half was how many break? 4 minutes break in the first half. Pedro came in the second half. Everybody was coming in from the dressing room fresh.
Everybody was not coming in from
15 minutes of rest.
Nobody was coming in from that dressing room fresh, because they've already played the first half.
You cannot.
A player that has played 50 minutes of football coming into the second half is not in the same freshness as somebody that has not played any match
you can
that
quantify
weekend.
the lack.
That's your opinion. It doesn't really make sense.
You cannot quantify the lack of performance from Sancho to that of Pedro.
That's rubbish coming from you, because they did not play the same player. It's not about being my opinion. They did not play the same player, and you cannot go ahead and say that. Simple and short. You're entitled to your foolish opinion.
Your foolish opinion, that's your business. But look at what I said. I said when Pedro came in, he was shaking off Sancho. He was shaking off, Trent and Konate at the same time.
Trent and Konate, were they coming up from the bench in that match, or have they been in that game? Answer this one question. Simple.
Do you think that if Sancho will continue playing in the second half, he can shake off Trent after failing to do that in 45 minutes? That's another question.
When we had this conversation about Sancho, I said one simple statement, and it's very telling in this match. Trent or Sancho was not utilized in his strength. You play him, yes, you played him 45 minutes, but the game instruction was not leveraging his strength.
But Neto,
if you want, that's a different player who has sat on the bench the whole day and hasn't played any game. True or false? He's been on the bench. He hasn't played any game. He came in against a player that had already played 45 minutes. Somebody that is on his second wind cannot match you the same effort that you are on your first wind. By the time you played your 45 minutes and you are tired and you come into the second half to play the second half, we now see how you guys play head to head, because this guy is fresh, he's fit, and he's coming into a game against an opponent that has already played 45 minutes or 50 minutes in the game. You can never match the output level.
You know one thing that is funny? If it was being brought in in the 70th minute, I will understand what John is saying. You get? Because he has played 45 minutes, he's tired. He went in for changes, rested 15 minutes, then came out, played another 20 minutes. You get? I'll say, okay, I understand. He has played, he's tired, that's why Pedro can do that. But it's 45 minutes. You are trained to play 90 minutes.
That's story for the gods.
You are trained as a person to play 90 minutes. And now let's not forget that even when, okay, let's say Pedro has already played like 30 minutes, because when they brought in, I think Nkunku was about 78 minutes. When they brought in Nkunku, he has already played 30 minutes. And Nkunku came in and played from the same position. Now, these are players that came in. I'm not talking about the whole general on the right to where they have to face Robertson and Van Dijk. We're still talking about trends that everybody knows. Everybody, every single football fan, every single football analyst, every single football fan that loves football knows that Trent is worse defensively. Even under, is improving under,
Yes.
Under Ancelotti, he's improving. That, yes. You notice the improvement, but everybody still knows that as a right back defensively, Trent didn't do. Because I always say this: if he did, he did. If he didn't do, he didn't do. Defensively, Trent didn't do. Christopher Nkunku came in on that same position against Trent and Konate. They had to take him off and brought in a Joe Gomez. You get? Because they saw that Pedro has exploited him. Now, Christopher is expecting him. So they had to take him off to make the not too rubbish him. They now brought in a Joe Gomez. What's the happen? In that same position, you have a Joe Gomez who is a centre half that can play right back and a Kunate. And yet, Christopher still made runs and still beat. The same instruction they were playing from the beginning. Okay, so it tells you that this player was off. Talent he didn't get them, but big matches he didn't show up. Discipline he no get.
Okay, let me ask that. Now, if you look at that position for Chelsea, you have a Modric. We will be talking about who should be playing from that left side. You know, when you buy a player, a star in quotes, like Sancho, bring in Sancho, you brought him a star. So sometimes you have to start him. Now they have Nkunku, Neto, Modric, and Sancho.
Okay.
From that left side, trying to fight for that particular wing. Who do you think should be starting? Do you think that the way Neto played and Nkunku, that Sancho can start? Or Neto should be starting, or who do you think should start and the other person should introduce? Because what we are saying now, especially what John is saying, that Sancho is better being introduced in the second half.
Now look at it. Before I talk about who should start and who should bench, I'll talk about where they played and how they played. At Wolverhampton Wanderers, Pedro was always coming in. Was mostly, I won't say always, was mostly coming in from the right.
Yes.
Not from the left. Was mostly coming in from the right for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Christopher Nkunku was always as a supporting striker, or perhaps he cuts from the left. That's Christopher from Leipzig. Now, who again? Sancho for Man United. For Dortmund before, he was from the right. Then they converted him to left because nobody was there. Now at Man United, it was from the left.
He played both.
But he was trying to play both. They were trying to manage him on both sides to see where he excels better. But he didn't excel in any one. But if you play from the right, he tries to cross the ball in. You get, but he knows still excel. On the left, his dribble, the recorders that the Man United fans gave him name, DJ, is always scratching. You know, when DJ is on the mix, there's this position they always bend to. That's how Sancho plays. Now, when you bend to that position, everybody is like, you're predictable. You're always DJing the same mix. You're predictable. Now, for Sancho, I'll say, look at everybody. I'm talking about every individual player. Now, the next person on the list, Modric. Modric, we know, plays on the left.
Yeah.
He has never tried on the right. We've never seen him play from the right. He plays from the left and he runs like a lost cow. You get? Now, with all these players, you've profiled each player. You would know where to start certain players. For Mono Madueke, he has never played on the left. So these are two players that we know are particular to an individual position. Mono Madueke from the right, Modric from the left. You take them off. They should be starting at some games. This last night was a game you needed Modric to start because they were mostly passing the ball in their own half. They had more passes, but it wasn't in the final third. It wasn't in the positions half. It was mostly within the Chelsea half and all of that. When they move forward, they lose the ball. So in this kind of game, since you're passing the ball forward and Liverpool was kind of setting a high line, you play Modric who can run and break the defense line with pace, which he should have been starting. When I said some games he needs to start because he's one of the fastest players Chelsea has. When I said it in the other podcast about Chelsea, when we were talking about Maresca giving him more time, these are the 10 kind of games he should be starting against a Liverpool, against a Man City, against an Arsenal side. Maybe you start 6 of these games.
Okay, you're talking about starting Modric in some games. Modric have not really performed because he had about 1 year, 6 months for us to see what he could do. That's why they brought in Sancho, because if he was actually performing, there is no need to bring in Sancho. That means they brought in Sancho because Modric failed to perform. So I don't know why people are campaigning, John. Why are people campaigning for Modric to be starting?
Is Sancho an upgrade to Modric?
Chelsea thought probably it's an upgrade. That's why they brought him.
It's not an upgrade. It's not an upgrade. In no way.
Everybody has a reason.
It's not an upgrade.
Everybody has their own personal opinion.
This summer, we've seen Chelsea waste money on players they do not need. You started the summer off by saying you wanted to clear out your team, that your wage bill is too much. You got rid of Lukaku. You got rid of Sterling. There's another player you are trying to get rid of who is a former assistant captain who is still at the club. We are hoping that January you are going to get them off. You get them off and you go and bring in baskets. You go and bring in João Felix, who is sitting on the bench on the same salary as
he didn't even play.
On the same salary as the persons you've gotten rid of. On the same salary, You went in and you got in a Sancho on the same salary level. So you can't even justify the fact that you are trying to reduce your wage bill. But you want to move these guys on to bring in more baskets into the team. Fine and good. Let them sit on the bench and maybe you sell a couple of shirts and you get your value in that way. But for me, Sancho is not an upgrade to Mudryk. 1, 2, Sancho on this team now with Chelsea is not a player that you play in big matches. He does not turn up in big matches.
Modric doesn't turn up in any match.
He does not turn up in big matches. Modric turns up when you least expect him. All that boy needs from Chelsea right now is game time. I said it, there are some deals, there are some players that come in and in 3 months you can see value for money. We look across Europe, you can see players like that. There are players that come in 6 months in, you can see value for money. 9 months in, you can see value for money. There are players you bring in 1 season, you haven't seen nothing. And they wake up the following season and pay you back in 1 year what you've been waiting for in 2 years. So for me, that's why, when they paint Chelsea fans, they sweet me because last the guy no go Arsenal where they beg and may come and he's enjoying purgatory right here in Chelsea right now. So he should enjoy his purgatory. Maybe next time he will do better, thinking better. But for me, in that starting lineup, what Chelsea should have done yesterday is hold on to the ball, but then you needed to have started an Nkunku, you needed to have started a Mudryk in that game that can take the ball and advance it forward, because you see Chelsea paying 4 or 5 more passes in that place and none of them is transiting forward. If all you do is pass within yourselves at the halfway line in the other person's half and you don't progress the ball, you're wasting time.
So, like I said, when I was talking about style of play, if you're playing on the break, you don't need Sancho. He is fast. He's fleet-footed, but you don't need him when you're playing on the break. Because you need somebody to advance the ball forward. You need somebody to make the run without the ball on his feet. And that's Mudryk. And he has the pace. Christopher Nkunku has the pace. Noni Madueke has the pace. Pedro has the pace. Now you have 4 of these players. You see, Sancho is there, but he's not as fast as the rest of them. So you don't need Sancho. When you want to build from the back and gradually progress, you need your players to be beating defenders 1v1. Then you can bring in a Sancho, a non-Madueke, because you want to hold on to the ball. It's just like saying,
I disagree.
Just like saying you want to play a tiki-taka with wingers dribbling. You play a Sancho, we understand. You're playing against a Brighton who sits deep. You don't, or maybe a Crystal Palace who sits deep. You don't bring in a Sancho and start him. You don't bring in a Mudryk and start him. You play a Sancho.
If you had somebody in that team that plays those splitting passes and puts the ball in pockets, you would have utilized Sancho more, but Chelsea weren't doing that.
Okay, let me ask the final question, because all this we can argue Sancho starting and Sancho not starting because Maresca had to take him off and brought in Pedro Neto, and he actually did better in that win. But the question is that you have to be consistent in your attack. You can't be changing. For example, you play City today, you put Sancho. Tomorrow you play West Ham. Tomorrow you put Modric. Next tomorrow you play West Brom. You put Nkunku. Because I think Maresca was looking for it. He's looking to steady the ship. For example, if you look at Arsenal, you could not attack a start. You could probably in the attack have a start. In Man City, you have people that start. But the problem with Chelsea is that they are still trying to find somebody to start in that left side. So I don't think that doing an experiment Maresca should be doing an experiment. So, for example, if you look at it, all these players you called, who do you think that needs a consistent run of games? Let's leave if Sancho and this person playing each game, because no coach will be doing that. He's looking at teams to be changing players in one particular wing. But if you look at it now, straight up answer, who do you think should be needing that?
Chelsea's front three.
Just for the left side, because Madueke will play from the right, obviously.
Sure.
Jackson will play in the middle, obviously. But the problem now is from the left side we are arguing, because Sancho is not giving the performance, and Neto. So who do you think should be starting? Nkunku, Felix can play there, Neto can play there. Who do you think should be
the person who it is his natural position to play there should play there, and that's Christopher.
Nkunku should be playing there.
Christopher should be playing there. Then Pedro should be playing on his own place.
So I disagree.
Who do you think to be playing from the left side? And
from the
right
left,
side?
Sancho should be starting. Sancho just came to Chelsea. if you look at Arsenal and look at other clubs, when you have a new player who is brought in to play a wing, you give him that his position, you bleed for the few weeks he's going to learn and make that place his own. When he makes it his own, everybody rejoices.
So,
Keep Sancho starting in that position till he gets it. Chelsea did it last season with Mudryk. Now, when we're not all here, they did it with Mudryk. After a season playing in that position, he couldn't make it his own. They went in and they got in Sancho. So give the man his chance to play in his position.
Where the problem is now is people are saying Sancho, Pedro, and the rest of them. They brought in the same Pedro to come and see if he can play in that position, if you remember. And then somebody they brought in that nobody is even mentioning his name at all. He played with this man in Leicester City, and he took him like a personal handbag when he was coming to Chelsea.
Dewsbury Hall is and will never be a winger. He's supposed to play in that CM role. If you watch,
and he plays in the wings for Leicester.
If you watch,
he plays in the wings for Leicester.
He has started, whenever he has started under Enzo Maresca, you can bring him for whatever. He played him in that position. Straight up.
For this season, though.
Straight up.
To compete with Cole Palmer.
Yeah, I think for this
season. Palmer is playing then. It's not a competition for Palmer.
I think since he came to Chelsea, he's been playing from the center. So, okay, the guys have decided because Sancho everybody's looking at Sancho. He has not actually nailed down that position for Chelsea. People are still talking about, is this still the old Sancho that is still at Chelsea, or are we having a new Sancho? After the first half, Maresca had to take him out and he brought in Neto. Neto actually did well in the second half. Now we are arguing on who should be starting for Chelsea from that left side. John is saying that they should give him time. After all, they gave Mudryk 1 year, 6 months to try to nail down that position, but he couldn't. They brought in two wingers now, Neto and Sancho, and they are fighting to nail down that position. Okay, let's see what Maresca will be deciding in the next game. If he's going to be starting Sancho again, or he probably try Neto.